This show is not intended for the politically correct or the closed-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step out from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
It's a kind of catapult to propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at latenightinthemidlands.com or openeyesnetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello and welcome to Open Eyes. It is a Friday. We are live and we are in person with you, and if you want to call in tonight, you can do so. The number is 260-494-3937. Our Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com, as well as live streaming on YouTube over at youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. We'd love for you guys to come on over, join in with the chat rooms, and get involved in the community. It's always a really interesting experience and always a lot of fun. There's great people that are involved in the whole thing, and I want to thank my moderators, as always, for helping us out over there in the chat room, including over there in the YouTube chat, which can kind of devolve into some craziness sometimes. But anyways, we have a guest on with us tonight, and I'll bring her on here in just a moment. Jacy Nova. She's a psychic-astrologer. She's done a lot of work for a long time now, and just a really great person. I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation, and I have talked to her a little bit before the show. I think it's going to be a good time. So anyways, I'm sorry that we didn't end up going live last night. We had every plan to, and then about an hour before the show was supposed to go live, we had a couple of issues that cropped up, so we ended up not being able to come on live. And of course, the cat is now up here trying to get involved with the show again as well. Go figure. Anyways, we'll go ahead and bring my guest on. Jacy Nova, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you on with us tonight.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be on the show and talk with you about everything psychic, astrology, and paranormal.
It's to say the least, some of my favorite topics. I love talking about this kind of stuff. It's always a lot of fun, and some really interesting things end up cropping up. But let's get started a little bit by giving some info about you. Who are you, and what's your background with all of this stuff?
Sure. Well, as you said, my name is Jacy Nova. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. And I first really started developing my psychic ability at the age of 4. I had a near-death experience. I was on a church retreat, and we were down at Cannon Beach, and I had fell in a cove where there was water. And we were with a large group. It was younger kids, high school students, and all of our church counselors. And the mud was really slippery, almost like quicksand, and I fell into the cove, and at the time I didn't know how to swim. And I remember I could feel myself losing consciousness, and I had an out-of-body experience where I was standing next to one of my counselors, and I was trying to get her attention, and I could see myself, and I was thinking, I was counting, like, oh, if I get up to 10, I'm going to, die, basically. And as I was counting 10, 9, 8, this young high school boy saw me, and he ran to the water and rescued me, and I went unconscious. So they basically called emergency crew to bring me back, and the camp counselors brought me home, and obviously my mom was very distraught. And from that moment, I always had this uncanny ability to sense something before it was about to happen. I could get a sense of a person immediately, positive or negative. I can read people's energy really well. At the age of 5, my family were very social. My grandfather would have parties. It could be holiday parties. It could be dinner parties. But he was very, very social. And we were having this holiday Christmas party, and it was really important that I dressed up. They dressed me up in this really nice dress, and he wanted me to greet the guests as they came in the door. And this one particular guest, when we answered the door, I can still remember what the man looks like. He had dark hair. He was in his 30s. He was wearing a black and white suit. And when my grandfather opened the door and I looked at him, I just wouldn't even say hi to him. I just immediately turned around and just ran straight for the dining room. And I hid under a chair, and my grandfather was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why Jacy's being so rude. And he was like, you need to come out from underneath the chair and say hello to this man. And I was crying, and I said, no, he's a bad man. He's a bad man. And my grandfather's like, oh my gosh, he was really embarrassed. And I was sent to bed early because of it. And then about 3 weeks later, that man that I was afraid of and had said he was a very bad man, he was arrested for killing 2 women. And ever since that moment, my grandfather was like, if Jacy doesn't like somebody, you need to pay attention. And so it was always like growing up, it was like, oh, well, what does she think? And at the same time, my grandfather was a religious man, so he wasn't sure, like, is this a gift from God or the work of the devil? So he was really uncertain about how he felt about it. But my mom was always very emotionally supportive about it as I grew older.
I had those arguments myself with my parents and people, thinking that things that I did were of the devil and that kind of stuff. It's a very common argument to happen, unfortunately.
I think people are afraid of what they don't know.
Yeah.
And religion, I believe in God, and obviously your faith or what your belief system is very comforting. And whether it's handed down from your family, it's part of your tradition, or something that you have grown to believe in based on your experiences. People can be a little bit afraid of the unknown.
Yeah, I always tried to, I'm not religious myself. I was, my mom was a Catholic, my dad was an atheist. We went to a Baptist church, and they sent me to a Lutheran school. So I had kind of a very diverse upbringing as far as that kind of thing goes. But I always tried to point out when it came to these different gifts that people have, things like I could do and that you could do, for instance, are right there in the Bible. It speaks about the different gifts that are given by the Spirit and so on and so forth, and they still wouldn't listen to any of it. So, it's a little bit confusing when you're growing up and you're able to do things to have people tell you, well, what you're doing is demonic, and sitting there thinking, well, what's demonic about this? I like for your case, I mentioned that this guy is an evil guy to be around. How is that a demonic thing?
Right, and then it turns out he was much more evil than
anybody really anticipated.
Anticipated. Yeah, very shocking, the situation with him.
So it all started with this near-death experience. I've heard a lot of people talk about different things that they can do, and a lot of times it does seem to come from a near-death experience or a touch from the other side. I've always said, when you have a situation like that, or you experience a UFO or a ghost or things along those lines, something in your consciousness tweaks. There's you look at the world in a little bit of a different frame of mind than the average person does, and so you tend to notice when things are happening or when things are not right in the world. Has that kind of been your experience, where a lot of people you've met have had that kind of a background as well?
Yeah, I've had friends that have had near-death experiences, and for me, I feel like it's almost like there's a thin veil between life and death, and it's lifted. But also, if you're consciously more open to experiences, then you naturally are going to have that experience. I can have a good sense if something is about to happen. I've had another near-death experience, and it's always been kind of having, I think a lot of people, when they face death, whether it's a car accident or say you have an illness, but if you're willing to communicate with spirit, whether that's God to you or whatever you might believe in, and you listen to your inner voice, sometimes you can change what's about to happen just based on your own conversation with, it could be your higher self. It really depends on what a person believes in. I personally feel like it's having a conversation with God or having a conversation with an angel and saying, hey, this is what this is happening to me, and can we negotiate, or what's going to happen to this other person if I leave this world? And ever since then, I've had experiences myself, or I've witnessed experiences, and I think everybody is capable of it, but it's just getting past your fear.
Right. Yes, absolutely agree. That's something I've always tried to get across to people on my shows, is that, I see so many people living in fear and living in their traumas and that kind of thing. And, it's not good to be in that place. I mean, there might be a purpose for you going through it right now, but there's always something better waiting on the other side of that, and so that's something I try to express a lot, is to get people to work past those issues that they've got, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think if you believe that there's, I believe in God, I believe that there's an afterlife, but I also believe in reincarnation. So I feel like we come into this world as like soul clusters, and we have this prearranged agreement with each other that we're going to have experiences together and work through spiritual issues, whether sometimes in situations I might be the teacher, or in other situations that person might be a teacher for me. And at the end of the day, for me, it all comes down to, it's about the relationships you have with others, and it's about love. It's not about money. You can't take it with you. And the challenges that you face in life on a daily basis, if you can look at it like, this is a spiritual challenge for me. What am I supposed to be getting out of it? How can I rise above this and become a better person because of it? I think that a person's life can be much more fulfilling.
Oh, absolutely. Do not disagree there at all. I'm in much of the same frame of mind as you. This is not our first time around this maypole in particular. We've been here many times before. We'll be here many times again. And we keep meeting the same people over and over. I've always looked at it as we, prearrange things, but that there's a way that you can kind of, break destiny, I guess you could say, like we have
free will.
With our free will, we can break the destiny that we've set for ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we're doing anything wrong or right. We're just going into a different format than we originally intended.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And it's almost like the game of life of like, okay, well, if I do X, Y, Z, that'll allow me to have these other 2 or 3 different experiences. I've also had many situations where a certain person will come into my life for just a moment or a day, and they end up introducing me to someone that could be so important, an important person in my life, or vice versa. I could be someone that helps change their life and move it into a more positive direction. So I think life is really interesting that way. I recently went to the Afterlife conference in Scottsdale a few weeks ago, and I thought that was pretty fascinating. And one of the events was hypnosis, where you're regressing back to just before you're coming into this lifetime. And I've had this experience multiple times from a hypnosis perspective, but also from a lucid dreaming perspective, that in my point of view, it's almost like these soul clusters. If you think of a big train station, if anyone's ever been to Grand Central Station and you're walking into the train station and it has all these destinations of where you're going and all these different passengers, it was like everything we were in, all these souls were together. And it was like, okay, you need to go over to track number 3, and there you're going to be meeting all the people that you're going to be sharing your life with in the next lifetime. So I could recognize certain people that were existing in my life and why they were playing a part. And even for relationships, sometimes people, I found in doing readings for people, they're always looking for their soulmate. And even if you connect with your soulmate in this lifetime, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to live happily ever after. Usually soulmate relationships can be very complicated, and sometimes for certain reasons within your life, you're unable to be together, but that doesn't stop the emotional connection you have with that person, or it doesn't make you love them less, but it's kind of like, okay, well, you're moving on to a different path. And it was very interesting during the hypnosis. I was able to reconnect with certain people and have those conversations. And okay, well, why am I in this situation now? And it's like, well, you're supposed to be a teacher for this person. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Or looking at a relationship with my mom, actually, in a previous lifetime, in more lifetimes, she's actually been my sister. And my son has actually been my brother. And so you get to look into family dynamics, and especially people that have challenges. Maybe you have challenges with your parents or your siblings or whatever it might be. I would really encourage listeners to kind of explore why you have that conflict and look at it from a spiritual perspective. And perhaps you've had another lifetime together and you're here together again to work through an issue that you might have had previously.
Well, you know, an interesting thing that's happened with me is, number one, my wife and I, we've been together for a long time now, but we've always had a strange relationship because in past lives, she's been the guy in the relationship and I've been the girl. And now we're flipped opposite. And it's funny because I'm much more of a feminine kind of person than she is. And she's sort of the guy in the relationship still. So it's funny how that kind of has carried over with that. But in another instance, my brother, I call him my brother. He's my brother from another mother, basically. We've known each other for about almost 25 years now. And since the moment we met, we always knew that we were brothers. Like that instinctive feeling, we knew that we were brothers at some point in time. And what we have discovered over time is that we were actually intended to be brothers this time around, but due to some physical limitations, it didn't end up working out that way. But he's always called me his little brother. Even though I'm older than him by a number of years, I'm always his little brother, because in past lives, I've always been his younger brother, you see. So it's kind of weird
that's really
how that instinctive kind of thing ends up occurring in relationships that you have had previously, you know, with these soul clusters, like you've mentioned.
Yeah, I had that situation with my mom. Even when I was a small child, my mom would always say, "Oh, she's like the mom and I'm like the daughter." And that was since I was little. And then I recently had this lucid dream. I was with my son, but in this dream, he's actually my brother. And we were coming into this land on these like wooden boats, and there was just a ton of us. There was hundreds of us. Like it was almost like we were being rescued. And so we get to this island, and I'm familiar with the island, and I'm looking for my family's home. And so my son is like, "Oh, it's the house right on the corner on the cliff." And it's dark and it's raining. And I just kept saying to him, "I have to find my daughter. I have to find my daughter." And when I got to the door, my grandmother opened the door. And it's like I knew I was in the spirit world. I knew it wasn't the real world. And I was like, "I have to find my daughter. Where is she?" And then my mom walked forward, and I was like, "Oh, I said, "Well, that's my mom." And they're like, "No, this is your daughter. She was just your mom in this lifetime, but she is actually always usually your daughter." And so I was like, "Oh." And so it kind of gave me confirmation about my relationship with her. She's passed on, but kind of a better understanding of the the reason why we had the relationship that we had. And even though she was my mom in this lifetime, we just reverted to our old, what we were used to. Like, yeah, you're my mom, but actually I'm the mom and you're the daughter. So that's how we're gonna act in this lifetime. So it was very interesting. So I really, I find reincarnation fascinating and really digging in deep and trying to learn about why you have the relationships that you do in your life.
Yeah, I think from my perspective of things, I've always thought that as far as reincarnation goes, it's not necessarily it's to a good purpose that we don't have the memories of those previous lives, at least fully, because at least from my perspective of things, if we remember what it's like, on the other side, we may not even be here. We just say, okay, no, forget this. We want to go back to the other way of being,
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth being here.
I know how the story ends. All right. I can go back now.
Yep, exactly. So, but as far as the other lifetimes goes, the way I look at things is if we remembered all of those things fully, it would have a big impact and an influence on the way that we live our lives now. And we're here to have these unique experiences. These, it's a different movie. It's a sequel maybe, but it's still a different movie, right?
Yeah, I agree. And even now I don't know how you feel, but I just feel like, wow, the energy is so chaotic now, and you have to have some type of spiritual foundation to try to work through some of the issues. Like, I guess half the time I can't even turn on the TV because it's so much conflict and so much drama. But I look to astrology to say, okay, this is what's going on astrologically for the next 2 years. Here's some of the issues that we're going to have to work through on a global scale, on a personal scale, and then, the energy will shift again. But I have found it, I do astrology predictions. I have entertainment site called the astrological.com, and we've recently did some political predictions, and most of them have come true, which they've come true more quickly than we had anticipated. So there's a whole energy shift going on a global scale where it's wow, it is very intense right now. That's
how I see it too. And one of the things I was actually going to bring up, I'm glad that you brought that subject up, because one of the things I was going to question is, with the way that things are right now, the way I see it, and I'd love to get your thoughts with this, the way I see it is that it's sort of a way for people to crystallize these experiences in a very short-term sort of a way, just like a pot boiling, and it boils out the water, but then it leaves the more thick syrup behind. It's like it crystallizes it into a more intense sort of flavor. And I think that's what we're seeing happening right now. There's this intensity of the energy that's going on to allow people to have these different experiences and work through any kind of, soul work that they need to have worked through.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It almost feels like a game of spiritual survivor. We're all in these different little tribes, and, what do you stand for? What are your beliefs? What's important to you? And everyone is sometimes on polar opposites, on opposing forces. And sometimes this conflict has brought people together and really reestablished their belief system and their value system. And with social media playing a part, communication is so rapid now that sometimes when people are upset, if you didn't have social media before, you would have a bit of time to think about how you feel. Like, do I really feel this way? Am I overreacting? Is this the right thing to do? But now with social media, people just instantly react, and you may feel that way, like right this moment, but maybe 30 minutes from now or a couple days later, you might have more information and feel completely different. Yeah. So from an astrological perspective right now, Pluto's in Capricorn. So there's basically subconscious forces working in our own life, but also on a global scale. And what we're going to see over the next 2 to 3 years is transformation in government, which we're already seeing now, positive and negative. Also, the universe is monitoring the checks and balances, and all of us will reap what we have sown. And it's a time of learning what your value structure is, and people may feel like some of their rights are being taken away, and we're going to have to work through that over the next 2 years. But then when Saturn goes into Aquarius and Pluto goes into Aquarius, that is like the dawn of Aquarius, where people really come together, in my opinion, from a spiritual perspective, of saying, hey, it's not just about what's happening right now. There is something else on the other side that we need to think about.
Do you think that there's going to come a time where people do realize that on a massive scale? Like right now, we have so many people that argue about, is there anything that's on the other side? Is there anything that's there? Many people have experiences with spirits and ghosts, but then on the other side of the scale, you've got so many other people that are, no, that type of thing never happens. It's all in your head. And what the hell are you talking about? I mean, do you think that it's ever going to come to a time though, where people do have a realization that there is something else that's there?
Yeah, actually I do. And what I really love about the podcast revolution and radio being re-energized is that people are listening. So they're not complicated by the visual. They don't become distracted. All they get to hear is information that goes straight into their heart and into their mind. And I think as human beings, that having the shows like you have and being able to talk to others and connect with others that feel the same way you do. So maybe you live in a small town and maybe you don't feel like you have anything in common with where you physically live, but then you can listen to a podcast or connect with people online, and they could be, wherever. They could be in Germany or London, and you think, oh, there's another person that thinks and feels the same way I do. And that's the spiritual connection, the soul consciousness connection, and the soul cluster. And I feel like all of us, based on our beliefs, can raise the vibration and kind of get rid of this chaotic energy. So I think we're going to see a power struggle over the next 2 years, the battle between good and evil, and what's real and what's fabricated. And people are going to look to their own intuition and what's your gut instinct? What do you really feel like is right? Because I think most people are naturally intuitive. I think some people have honed their skills more than others. But if you really pay attention, you will instantly increase your psychic ability over time. And I think everybody has the ability to do it. You just have to be consciously open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that happen with people that I know when I've talked to them about the exact same thing. They sort of come to a realization, that, wow, this really is a reality. I always say that people are ready to hear things at different times. And even if they hear the words that you're saying at this moment in time and don't believe it or don't understand it, it's still rattling around in the subconscious. And when they are ready to hear it, they're going to remember what was said, or they're going to get led to, your words and your voice and hear what you have to say again, anew, and realize, wow, that really is true. I've seen this. Okay, wow, look what happened to me a month ago, or, whatever the case may be. And they start to wake up to the fact that this type of stuff is existent.
Yeah, I'm even do that in readings. Like when I do a reading for someone, I never tell them anything I don't think they're ready to hear. I'm not a doom and gloom person. I might say you have these challenges coming up, and when I do a reading for a person, I look at their astrological chart, where they are numerology wise in their life path, and then I will do a reading to see, which direction they might be going. I like astrology because I look at it as like a weather report, like, hey, it's going to be raining next week. You might want to take that umbrella, or here's what's going on. Here's a couple of paths you're going to take. And I really find that people find it comforting that if they have the information in advance, it helps them not overreact to situations, or it gives them time to think about, well, if this really does happen, what's my plan B? What's my plan C? What am I going to do? and it helps them make better decisions. And I find that it's been really beneficial. I find that, especially from a business perspective, using astrology can be very beneficial on when to start a business, or if you're planning on moving, when's the best time to move, or even from a relationship perspective, are we compatible, or, oh, I'm getting married, when are the best dates to get married, and things like that.
Yeah, I've seen, I know with business, a lot of businesses rely on astrology to help them set the mode of their operation for the year or even the next 10 years. Have you had a lot of encounters with business people that have wanted that kind of thing?
Yeah, actually, I've done quite a few readings for business people. I recently did one for a tech executive that's getting ready to launch a company next month. And so what I do is I say, okay, when are you wanting to launch? And if they say, okay, November, December, I'll say, okay, here's 10 dates that are the best dates to launch the business, and here's why. What are you trying to achieve? Is it just about money? Is it brand perception? What are they hoping to accomplish? And then I'll give them 10 dates to choose from, and then I'll choose 3 that I think are the most auspicious. And then I allow them to make the choice of what they think is going to be best, because you have to look at the dynamics, especially if it's like a corporation. You look to see who's the CEO, who are the founders, who's making the day-to-day decisions, and possibly even board members. How does that affect? And then where are they launching their business? Because even every country, every city has its own astrological profile. So there's like multiple factors that you can look at. And I think any good businessman likes to get advice, whether you're getting financial advice from your accountant or legal advice from your lawyer or your strategist or whoever it might be. And I'm just another person that's providing them information to help them be as successful as possible.
That's really cool. And yeah, that all of those things do have an influence, because it's the energies of all of the people that are involved and all the places that are involved that are going to make a difference into how that particular moment in time is going to be, isn't it?
Yeah. And I also think that if you're starting a business, you have to be really selective on who you choose to work with, who you choose to do business with. You may have the best intentions, but someone can come in and throw a curveball and, create all kinds of unnecessary drama. But that's also true for people on a personal level. When I'm doing a reading for someone and they have all kinds of crazy, chaotic, dramatic things happening in life, I'm like, well, what part have you played in this? Are you naturally attracted to drama? And why is that? Is it something within your chart? Is it a life lesson that you need to go through? Or is it maybe low self-esteem? I mean, there's many factors that you can look at. But if you change the way you look at things, things begin to change. And you have to, if you want your life to change, you can start as simple as, I'm really big on energy cleansing of your house, saging, getting rid of negative energy, but also just from a clutter perspective, if you're into feng shui, getting rid of old clothes, getting rid of, everybody's got that closet where you throw everything into it, and, going through it and getting rid of stuff that you don't really need and letting go of that old energy so new energy can come in.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I 100% agree with you on that. Jacy, we do need to hit a break here real quick. Let's go ahead and do that. And when we come back, I've got a couple of questions that have come in from the chat. I've got a couple of questions of my own, and I wanted to get into the book that you wrote that's being published next year, isn't it?
Yes, that's Rock and Roll's Death by Misadventure.
Yes.
It's the supernatural look of 33 rock stars and the mystery behind their deaths.
It sounds so interesting, and I definitely want to pick it up myself. But let's hit a break, and when we come back, we'll get into all of that stuff. How's that sound to you?
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. You guys are listening to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Tonight we're here with Jacy Nova, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. A really great guest so far. Love what she's got to say. If you want to call in, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film. And as always, we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Ben Franklin said, "If you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today." Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change.
You can listen to the LNM Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from lnmradionetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
The LNM Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information, and subscribe today. Information on becoming an LNM subscriber can be found at the top of latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of latenightinthemidlands.com and help us help you.
Do you think social media is the end-all be-all? Do you live and breathe by Facebook and other platforms? Do you spend hours and hours endlessly going through posts by alleged friends in an endless quest to have a life? You need Fake Away, available exclusively through the LNM Radio Network. Our crack scientific teams have worked tirelessly to perfect this product and have made it available to you through this limited offer. Fake Away can solve the problems suffered by you and many others. It can help you understand you have been snowed by the fake media, the social media biases you encounter every time you click refresh, and even help your hair grow by keeping you from pulling it out over the smallest offenses. Get Fake Away today, only through LNM Radio Network. Fake Away is not for shills, disinfo agents, lovers of politicians who keep screwing the country, constant end-of-the-world predictors, liars, hostile radio show hosts, or snowflakes. Dark secrets lie within the pages of Haunted, finding an explanation for the unknown. Within the dark of night, subtle sounds can be heard. Unseen hands reach out to touch, stirring echoes of past nightmares and paranoia. In Haunted, finding an explanation for the unknown, you will read chilling true stories of hauntings, demonic possessions, and everything that goes bump in the night, as we explore the hows and whys of haunted houses and more. Ira Robinson has not only been a man who has personally experienced the paranormal, but an investigator for many years as well, and brings his expertise to bear on this mysterious subject. What did our ancient ancestors think of the spirit world? What did they do as a response to their own paranormal experiences? Are the tools people use today to communicate with the spirit world not only appropriate, but safe to use? Can the dead return to us in some way in order to help us or harm us? You will find an answer to these questions and much more in Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown. Don't be afraid. The keys to understanding are in your hands. Find this book and all of his others at Ira Robinson's official website, originalworlds.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Tonight we're here with Jacy Nova, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the show as much as I am. If you want to call in, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. Come on over and join in with us. Jacy, we are back from the break. Thanks for sticking around there.
Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed listening to your music and all the stuff that you're doing.
Thank you. So we had a couple of questions that came in from the chat. I wanted to go ahead and hit them here real quick while we had the chance. The first one is kind of I don't know if it's a generalized question or if they were asking for their own purposes. I don't know what kind of connection you need to make or whatever, but they were wondering, why are they getting dizzy wave feelings or feelings like they're getting pulled down and maneuvered sort of out of nowhere?
Well, it sounds like, so they're getting pulled down, meaning from an emotional perspective?
I think that's what they were intending, yeah.
Yeah, I think I really believe this because I have the same sense of feeling. Sometimes you have this overwhelming sense of dread, and then all of a sudden things feel good again. But I do feel that on a consciousness level, not only on a local basis, but on a global basis, I meet people every day. I do readings for people, and I come in contact with all kinds of different people, and everyone expresses the same thing. Emotionally, they feel pulled, and I really feel like it is a struggle between good and evil, and from a consciousness level, are we, why are we here, and what are we supposed to learn? And there's a lot of tragedy going on, and how does that make you feel? So I feel like people are feeling emotionally overwhelmed. I think by being able to connect with others and at least talk about it can make it better. And then just from a consciousness point of view, if everyone agrees they want to stay positive, and you can do that through meditation, if you're spiritual, if you just want to spend time with friends or listening to podcasts and connecting with others that feel the same way, I think you can really lift the energy vibration. But I do feel that people will feel this way, as your listener mentioned, for at least the next couple of years on and off, because Pluto in Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn is really, it's a taskmaster. So we'll learn a lot through the process, gain wisdom, and by 2020, there will be a spiritual uprising and things will be much better than what they are right now.
I think, too, one thing to bear in mind is that a lot of things are coming out in the media about our leadership and all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I try to express to people is to bear in mind that our leaders are sort of a mirror reflection of what's going on in the general population. So if the leaders are acting in corrupt, sordid sort of ways, that's because they're reflecting what the general population has in their own lives, because people are lying and cheating and stealing in their own lives. The government lies, cheats, and steals. It's sort of a mirror reflection of what's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even what's happening now on an entertainment level with the abuse allegations with Harvey Weinstein and the social media campaign of Me Too, Alyssa Milano encouraged people, men and women, to express if they've been abused in any way. And all of a sudden now it's completely opened up the floodgates for different people coming forward and sharing their story. But also there's a lot of pain and sadness that goes along with that, and shame for people that have had to keep these stories quiet for so long. And so it's almost like we're having this emotional tidal wave, and then you see what's happened with the hurricanes in Puerto Rico and what's going on around the world, and it can be emotionally overwhelming trying to process all of this. But I also feel like we're all in this together, and that we can learn and grow from this and all become better people because of it.
Absolutely. That's what I was trying to get to earlier, was that what we're seeing is sort of a catharsis effect happening. It's a real good way for people to have the opportunity to express those things that they've got inside that they've been trying to hide, or having to hide. Okay, so another question that came in was, do you feel that computers or artificial intelligence have taken our information online to direct us to something else. So is there something that's involved with the computer systems and the artificial intelligences that's sort of astrological in symbolism as well?
Well, I really feel like when we get into Pluto and Aquarius and Saturn in Aquarius, that's when we're going to feel the full swing of artificial intelligence and self-driving cars, and certain jobs that were done by humans are now being done by computers or robots. And more people, if you look at it from a scientific perspective, social media has made a lot of us more introverted, or computers. Like, instead of just picking up the phone and calling your friend, maybe you're going to text them or email them instead. I think there's benefits to that, but when you lose the human connection, sometimes that can create a lack of empathy, or people might feel alone. I know, living in San Francisco, I work with a lot of tech executives that are brilliant and they have tons of money and beautiful houses, but emotionally they're lonely. They feel spiritually disconnected. And I really feel like this artificial intelligence, is this something that we've created? Could it be from another planet? Is it, could be aliens or whatever it might be. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes, and I feel like a lot of people will, when artificial intelligence becomes an everyday part of the life, I think there'll also be a revolution where there'll be lots of people saying, I want to go off the grid. I'm going to go off the grid. I'm not going to do smartphones. I'm not going to do computers. I'm going to go back and live life, the old-fashioned way that our ancestors did.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing, by the way.
No, it isn't. I mean, I do know some people that just are not into computers, and if you want to talk to me, you better pick up the phone, or better yet, come over to my house and see me. So it's very refreshing.
I'm sort of that way myself. I don't do texting or anything like that, and I have a couple of friends that preferred never to call. They only want text. So it's definitely that way. Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's sad when you go to a restaurant, and I've seen this personally. I've gone to a restaurant and I've seen a family that's sitting, across the way, and they all have their phones out. They're all, texting or surfing the internet while they're sitting there at dinner. And, there's like 5 of them, and they're texting each other while they're sitting there around a table. It's like, what is the point? Oh my goodness, people, talk.
Yes, I agree. I see that too. I have a rule in my house. It's like all devices have to be put away when we're having dinner or we're out socially.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so another question. This is one that I have. What about the people that poo-poo all over astrology and say there's nothing to it or nothing existent with it? What do you do as a response to that kind of thing?
Well, I refer to, say, like Nostradamus. All of Nostradamus's predictions were based on astrology. And there has been analysis as far as looking at people's astrological charts and making predictions around it. And it's something that I believe in. I see it's more of a science, or it's a tool. And I go back to the example of a weather, like you're telling the weather. So it's the same thing astrologically. I've met a lot of therapists that have started integrating astrology into their practice, especially when they're treating, say, families and looking at family dynamics, and they'll take a look at each person's individual chart and see, like, okay, well, why does this brother and sister have conflict but not with the other one? Or why is the dad not get along with the son, or whatever the dynamics might be? And it's been incredibly beneficial. And even sometimes I did a show a few weeks ago, and one of the listeners had asked in the chat room, she said, I'm a Leo and I was just diagnosed with depression. Can you tell me anything about my chart? And I didn't even have her birthday yet. And I said, well, I've found in my own experience, in my own research, when someone has depression, I will find in their chart they usually have moon in Pisces or moon in Scorpio. And then they gave me her birth date, and I looked it up, and sure enough, she had moon in Pisces. And so I mean, I think there's people can debunk it, and then I think there's ways that you can look to prove it. But I personally believe in it, and to me, it's just like religion. Some people believe in God, and some people don't. I respect everyone's belief, and I hope they would respect mine too.
Understandable, definitely. What about the 13th sign? Now we've got the 12 zodiac, but just not too long ago they came out saying, well, we need to adjust things because of the Ophiuchus 13th sign. What do you do with that? Do you follow that one as well, or do you just do the 12, or how do you do things?
Well, it's really interesting about astrology. So there's two types of astrology. There's Vedic astrology, which is basically people that live in Asia, India, follow Vedic astrology. And then there's Western astrology, which is North America, Europe. And so Vedically, for example, my sun sign is a Virgo and I'm a Libra rising, but Vedically, they take your chart and they go 21 degrees back. So actually, Vedically, I'm a Leo and moon in Virgo. So what's interesting about in India is they still have a lot of prearranged marriages, and parents will look at their kids' astrological charts, and if they are not compatible, then they won't allow the kids to get married. So they very much live their day-to-day life about it. So I'm really interested about the 13th sign. I haven't had a chance to investigate it as much as I'd like to, but I do feel like it can add another important element to learning more about a person's personality and what predictions there are for the future.
Very interesting. Okay, so then another question that I had is, as far as the astrological predictions and all of that kind of stuff goes, some people say that when you do any kind of like fortune telling or prediction and that kind of thing, that there can be like karmic repercussions with it. What do you think about that? Do you think that there's any kind of karmic repercussions when it comes to doing astrology, or what is your thoughts with that?
I do think that you have a responsibility that when you're doing a reading for someone, I really stress the fact that you have free will. If you don't like what I'm saying, you can change it. I use astrology because I see it as a tool, and it's advice, and here's a map, and here's things that I think are probably going to happen, and if they are going to happen, here's some decisions that you should make. So it's giving people that I read for knowledge and wisdom on what the potentials are, and understanding too when they're getting a reading, if someone's coming to me and asking, say, about a relationship, well, that person has free will too, and they have their own path in life and all these different factors going on. Sometimes I've found that if a couple is having, say, relationship problems, by me looking at their astrological chart and being able to explain to them, well, this person has a moon sign in Pisces, so they're really emotionally sensitive and probably would more likely get their feelings hurt based on something you said versus maybe your best friend that has moon in Libra who might think it's funny and hilarious, and kind of giving them a better understanding of that we're all different and we might react to situations differently. So it's not personal. It's just, this is who they are. This is how they're born. Yes, we can all evolve, grow, change. And I think that's helped a lot of people out. And two, when it comes to relationships, lots of times it's about timing. Maybe it's the right guy or girl, but it's the wrong time.
Right.
Or you picked the wrong guy or girl, but it was the right time. You know, Jupiter was in your 7th house, so you wanted to get married, and hey, that's who was in your life at the time, and maybe it doesn't work out, but you still get to have that life experience.
Right, exactly. And, you know, emotional addictions have a lot to do with these things too. And I've talked about this a lot with, because I wrote a book, When Good Relationships Go Bad. I talk about how people get addicted to different emotions and sort of go into these cycles of repetition. And I've always wondered if there was maybe some kind of astrological component that goes with those kind of addictive things as well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that people that have these emotionally addictive relationships, they're usually very karmically tied. There's also usually the planet of Uranus and the planet of Pluto are involved. So Uranus, when it squares, say, your moon or Venus, moon is your emotions, Venus is how you love. Uranus is like sudden. So you might see these in relationships where people are always breaking up and getting back together, breaking up and getting back together. Or Pluto, where Pluto is squaring Moon or Venus. Pluto is the planet of obsession and intensity. So you might see this jealousy and possessiveness. So based on the aspects in the relationship, there might be certain planets that are activating this emotional addiction that they have for each other. And it's like drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
Like maybe it feels good at the moment, but sooner or later you gotta like quit it, or you're going to end up like killing yourself or killing them in the process. And that's part of your soul cluster. Oh, okay, I'm having this relationship with this person so I can learn about love and respect and forgiveness and anger and frustration, and either we'll stay together forever and just make each other miserable, or maybe we'll work through it and get to the other side, and maybe a new person will come into my life where I can have a more positive relationship with them.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So then another question that I have in relation to this stuff is, how much do you like to sequester yourself away in a closet when Mercury retrograde comes around?
Mercury retrograde, I always have the classic definition of technical problems. It could be my computer, my phone, my car, my battery, like just all kinds of kooky, crazy stuff happens. And my sign is ruled by Mercury, and I have it in my 12th house, so it's exalted. So it affects me maybe sometimes more than others. But I do think, most people can have some communication problems. But if you have Mercury retrograde in your own chart, then it can actually work to your benefit. So that might be actually a very fortunate time for you. So if you get your natal chart done, you might want to check that out to see if you have Mercury retrograde, and then that would be a positive time for you.
That's interesting. How would that work out if you've got this thing that's normally negative? How would that be a positive?
Well, it's like two negatives become a positive. It's kind of like, and it really depends on the astrological sign. So if you're more like an earth sign and you kind of like to work through things, if you look at Mercury retrograde, it's like, oh, okay, things are going backwards, so I get to fix what's broken. So it's kind of an organized structure thing. Whereas if you're more, say, a water sign, which is Pisces, Scorpio, or Cancer, that could be really emotionally frustrating and could be more prone to arguments, anger, getting upset. That would be the same for fire signs, Aries, Sagittarius, Leo. They're going to get super frustrated and super annoyed because they want to take action and they want things to move forward. And with Mercury retrograde, everything kind of just slows down. And then for air signs, Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra, they're going to want to talk about it. Like, okay, well, let's talk about what's not working and how do we fix it. So it does serve a purpose, because some of us live our life on autopilot and do not make changes unless they're forced to make them.
Very interesting. Now, a couple of people were asking in the chat room. I forgot to ask you about this ahead of time, but do you do any kind of readings on the air? Like if somebody wanted to call in, if they wanted to have you speak about something like that?
Generally, I can do a reading. What I ask for is just their birthday, the day they were born. So say their birthday's October 11th, 1972. I need that information, and then I can look it up online here and just give a brief overview of their chart, what I see,
okay,
and give them a general overview of what's coming up for them in 2018.
Okay, great. So with we've got about 10 minutes before we have to hit our next break here, but I wanted to get into the book, this book that you wrote that's coming out next year. So it's called what was the title of it? Death.
It's called Rock and Roll's Death by Misadventure.
Death by Misadventure. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, the supernatural look at the mysterious death of 33 rock stars. So I started doing looking from an astrological perspective of all the rock stars that have died, say, over the last 50 years, and how they died. Was it by an accident? Was it they had a heart attack, cancer? They were killed. They committed suicide. It was drugs, whatever it might have been. And so I chose, it's interesting, British use the word misadventure. So if someone dies of an overdose, or if they die of a car accident, or if they die by suicide, the coroner calls it death by misadventure. So thought, wow, that's really fascinating, the term that they use. And I started looking at all these different astrological charts, and I was trying to see, is there a pattern that certain people that die in this really tragic way, do they have similar moon signs? Do they have squares to their moon or Venus? And I found that there were themes. Many of them had moon in Pisces or Cancer. There was a lot of Scorpio in their chart, a lot of Sagittarius, and a lot of Aquarius, which I found really fascinating. And there were certain aspects going on when every single person passed away. So I decided that I wanted to write a book that looked at the person's astrological chart, kind of give an intro of what pushed them to get into music and become famous. Here they are as a person, and then what happened in their death and why things might have happened the way they did from an astrological perspective, but also from a supernatural perspective, because as I dug deeper into certain rock stars, whether it was Chris Cornell or Chester Bennington, or it could be Kurt Cobain or even Elvis Presley, what kind of themes I could find out about it.
I will definitely ask you about Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. My wife is a massive, massive Linkin Park fan, and she was absolutely devastated. So was my daughter by Chester Bennington's death. So I'll definitely ask you about that. But we do have a call that's coming in. I want to go ahead and bring them in here real quick. I do believe this is Jessica that's joining us. Jessica, is that you on the phone?
You know it.
Indeed.
All right. Now I got you and Michael.
You got us trained, Jessica. What's on your mind tonight?
Okay, I got a few questions. Now, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. Did you get into his chart and his death?
Well, I just started looking into it. I think with Michael Jackson, because he's a Virgo, I think part of his challenge in his lifetime, being a Virgo and having so many planets there, is Virgos can tend to be very obsessive and if they're not conscious about it, they can live inside their own head. And so it's like he could play out scenarios in his head. So by cutting himself off from other people, not being able to interact with everyday people, and protecting himself from the paparazzi, and really cutting himself off from his friends and family, the negative aspects of his astrological chart kind of took over. And that's where you saw the issues that he had with addiction, the issues he had with self-esteem. And I think even he may have lost himself spiritually along the way and kind of just went in the wrong direction. So I've found with a lot of these stars that even though they have fame, they have fortune, all these fans love them, they usually have aspects in their chart that show issues with abandonment. They're insecure. They have low self-esteem, and that there was some type of negative relationship that they had with one parent or both. And in Michael Jackson's situation, it would have been with his father, which really took a toll on him emotionally, but he just never recovered from it. So there's like two people. Like there's the famous Michael Jackson, but in private life, he was just like a little kid. He was like a little boy.
With the whole Wonderland aspect and
sad.
Everything with it too. You know, JC, one of the things I was going to mention is I've seen that you were mentioning about the sadness and that type of thing. I've seen that with a lot of people that have very quick success. They end up going into almost a depression mode. They feel like they don't deserve it, that there's, for whatever case, for whatever reason, they feel that it came too quickly. They just don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to process it. So for a lot of people that find success either late in life and it comes quickly, or even early in life and it's always been something that's there, they have so many issues handling it.
And especially for a lot of these stars, a lot of them are introverts. Like they don't like to be around people.
Right.
And so all of a sudden that you're uber famous and you're just constantly surrounded by people, it's almost like I don't know if it's a psychotic break, but it's like they have to split themselves emotionally and spiritually, and they kind of lose themselves. And so if they don't surround themselves with a strong foundation of people that love and care about them sincerely, they can really lose their way. And this is very, very true with many of these musicians that have addiction issues and they become sober. You'll find in the industry many times when they go out on tour, they have a sober coach go with them. That is, I wouldn't say it's their babysitter. It's just someone that has suffered addiction themselves, but they're there to keep them together, to have a conversation with them. If they feel like they're getting emotionally overwhelmed, they can kind of get them out of a situation. So with like Chris Cornell, I was really surprised that he didn't have a sober coach touring with him. I was really surprised that Chester Bennington did not have one either, because in Los Angeles, some people that I've read for and friends that I have, that is very, very common. And so it's almost like, you know, when the person's on tour or getting ready to go out on tour, you've got to have that sober coach with them to just kind of help them keep it together.
Wow. Yeah. And you see that a lot with especially like children that who went famous, like not besides musically, but even TV and all the other ones, you know, and you see that a lot. I have a question. Can I be the first one to get a mini reading?
Sure. Okay? What's your birthday? Yeah, sure.
Okay. 5/1. Oh gosh, I'm gonna say my whole birthday. Okay, 5/1/1985.
Oh, you're young. All right, so May 1st, 1985. So you're a Taurus. So that's, I'm going to pull up your chart right now.
I'm very stubborn.
Yes, the classic Taurus. But also Taurus, men and women both, are very down to earth, very loyal. They make wonderful friends and family partners. You have Moon in Virgo, so emotionally that would tell me that when you're upset about something, maybe you tend to obsess on it or worry about it, and you can be self-critical. You can be really hard on yourself at times. But with Venus and Aries, if you want something, you'll go after it, and you're not afraid to take action. Mars in Gemini, that tells me that you get bored really easy. And so the Moon square Mars, it's like if you find yourself maybe overthinking things, or you find yourself like maybe something happened at work or something happened at home with your family or a friend, and you're upset about something they might have said to you. If you think about it too much and you find yourself getting more and more upset, you just have to take a moment and step back, because I see that emotionally you can sometimes get overwhelmed and upset about things that if you kind of just left it and say, I don't want to talk about this today, let's talk about it tomorrow, and you have time to think about it and process it, because you have that Moon in Virgo. Intellectually, you're very smart, and you can kind of work through things and think about it, and you think, it's not as big of a deal as I thought it was. You have Saturn and Sag squaring Moon, and Saturn was in Sag over the last, Uranus and Sag over the last couple years. So I would say that emotionally, do you feel like you've taken a couple of really hard emotional hits over the last couple of years?
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the good news about that is, because Saturn's in Capricorn, this is a time where you really feel over the next 2 years, and I would say it starts like in December and it'll last for a 2-year period. Saturn in Capricorn is going to trine your moon and trine your sun. And what that means is those planets are working together. So you're going to feel like, oh, wow, my life is turned around. I'm moving in the direction I want to go. I feel emotionally good about the friends I have and where I live and my family. And it'll give you an opportunity to really plan what you want your future to look like over the next 5 years. So really, I would encourage you to take advantage of that, because you've just come out of your your Saturn return. And what a Saturn return is it happens to everyone around the age of 28 or 29. And that's kind of like Saturn comes in and turns your life upside down. Everything that you thought you knew, you didn't know anymore. And relationships come and go out of your life. And it can be a very painful period, but at the same time, it can be very liberating. Because when the Saturn return is over, which is right around the age of 30, you get to sit back and think like, okay, you really have a better understanding of who you are as a person and what you want out of life. And I really see a lot of positive things coming to you over the next 2 years. So all that emotional stuff is going to start to pass away.
All right. And okay, I have a question. Now, typically there's always a compatible sign. Like Pisces would be good for like Taurus or, those kind of things, because I have a lot of people in my life that are Capricorns, and my father's Aries and my mother's Pisces. And so I always wanted to know, is there always a I'm sorry, I can't talk.
Compatible person, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I always thought of that, like another Taurus with another Taurus. Like, do you explain that in a book?
Yeah, sure. Well, what you look at when I look at someone's astrological compatibility, I look at their moon sign and your Venus sign. Moon is your emotion, and it's getting that emotional bond with somebody. And Venus is like who you're attracted to, who you're, Prince Charming or Cinderella might be. So you have Moon in Virgo. So emotionally, Earth signs are very good for you. Whether it's a Capricorn, a Taurus, or another Virgo, they would be able to give you the emotional connection that you're looking for romantically. Now, you have Venus in Aries, so you might be, though, more attracted to what they call like the bad boys, or the guys that are kind of more assertive and more outgoing, and they might be a little bit more stubborn and like to have things their way and more controlling. So you have your emotional needs. You really should be with more like an earth sign, but you might be more attracted to like a fire sign. So if I had to pick like the perfect guy for you, I would say, or girl, Moon in Virgo, I would pick a Virgo, a Capricorn, a Taurus, or a Scorpio.
Oh, wow. And that is also like within friendships, or is that just as like another person to live with your life? I mean, it's like friendships besides
friendships are a little bit different. Yeah, friendships are a little bit different because friends, it's kind of like when you're in a relationship, a friend can do something to you and you don't even care. But if your partner did it to you, you'd be really upset. So friends are held to a different standard. So I would think that if you had like Aries type friends or fire signs, Aries, Leo, or Sag, they bring a lot more excitement into your life and somebody you could go out and have a lot of fun with. You might look to earth signs to and possibly Gemini to talk over problems with. So if you needed to work through something, I would say like a Virgo, a Taurus, a Capricorn, or even a Gemini might be more beneficial to kind of help you work through issues that have been challenging for you. I would say that you probably, from a friendship perspective, might have challenges with, say, a Sagittarius, because they might be too outspoken or just a little bit too much for you. So it really depends, but I would look at friendship as people are coming into your life and you're either there to be a teacher for them or they're going to be a teacher for you, and you're going to work through life together and have new experiences and be able to be supportive of one another.
Well, there you go. Jessica, you got anything else? We do need to hit a break here in a couple of moments.
Oh, no, I'm good. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to keep listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
Thank you, Jessica.
God
it's
bless.
Always great to hear from you.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, Jacy, we do need to hit a break here real quick. And when we come back, I've got a couple of other people that have said they wanted to have their information done, including my wife. She's very excited to have it done. So we can do that after we get back. And I wanted to get into Chester Bennington. One of the questions that I've got as far as that goes, and we can answer that when we come back, is we've gotten some information that his death may not have actually been a suicide. And we can talk about that when we return. How's that sound to you?
That sounds great.
Alrighty. You guys can call in tonight if you want to. Number is 260-494-3937. Skype line is JDA Film, and we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. Come on over, join in with us. It's always a fun time over there, and lots of people over there having a lot of fun right now. But anyways, so we will be back in just a few moments. Stick around. And don't forget, by the way, next Friday, we are kicking off our L&M Spookathon, 24 hours of live broadcasting. Should be very interesting. We'll be getting more into that next week.
You can listen to the L&M Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from lnmradionetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on LateNightInTheMidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
From the author of Silent Steps and Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown, comes a story so chilling it will haunt you for years to come. Krista is a young woman escaping her past, running away from her family, her traumas, and her God, hoping to find a new life in a different town. But when she is forced to make a horrible choice, she comes to realize malevolent entities have controlled the true darkness she has been a part of. That is when her real terror begins. Penitence is disturbing and evocative. It will tear down the walls between what is real and what is nightmare. Penitence is the new novel by the man called the new master of speculative fiction, Ira Robinson. Find it and all of his books at his website, originalworlds.com.
Why subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands, you ask? Well, I'll tell you why. Late Night in the Midlands covers everything, and through the thousands of expert guests who have joined Michael Vera on his show, come pieces of the big puzzle, which started many years ago. Michael and his guests reveal information dating back to the beginning of time. To this very moment, Michael Vera not only brings you the best guests with the best information, but Michael is not afraid to call out those who are less than honest. You see, in this day and age, we need a radio show we can count on and a radio host we can trust to expose the truth one show at a time. So become a late nighter and subscribe now. Talk radio like no other. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Want to thank you guys for sticking around through that break with us. We are here tonight with Jacy Nova, psychic astrologer, really awesome lady. I'm having a great time, and hopefully you are as well. And if you want to call in, 260-494-3937. That's 260-494-EYES to call in and join in with us. Jacy, we are back, and before we hit the break there, we were getting into a little bit of the astrological charts and that sort of thing. And I mentioned Chester Bennington and how there is actually a lot of rumor around that he did not actually commit suicide, that there was some other intentions that were involved with that. Have you heard anything about that, or do you have any kind of information with that?
Well, I like many other fans, was really shocked about Chester Bennington's death, and I dug a little bit deeper. He had recently bought a house in Palos Verdes, and my son lives in Hermosa Beach in the South Bay, and which is just a few miles from there. And what was interesting is the house that he lived in, he had just closed escrow, and they had just moved in to the house a few weeks before. So they were barely unpacked. And then also, he had been on a vacation trip with his family in Phoenix, in Arizona, visiting, and he left his wife and kids there because he wanted to come home a day early because they were getting out ready to go out on tour in a few days. And then the next day he had a photo shoot scheduled. So the fact that he had come home and everything seemed fine was an interesting aspect. So I thought about it astrologically, what's going on with him. It was Chris Cornell's birthday the next day, which he had a very strong emotional karmic connection with Chris Cornell. Yeah. So I felt like there was some depression attached with it. Also, it was said that he had been drinking, so it looks like he had fallen off the wagon, and he had been talking with people that night. So I didn't really feel like it was necessarily intentional. Part of me felt like, was he trying to see what it felt like? Like, oh, okay, Chris, hung himself. Like, what does that feel like? Let me kind of experiment or be on the edge with that. But I don't feel like it was intentional. And I feel like when it did happen, it was like, oh my God, what did I do? And then it was too late, because I don't really feel like he was ready to leave the world yet. He is a very sensitive soul. He's on the cusp of Pisces and Aries, Moon in Scorpio. So, he can go to some really dark places, as he's revealed in many interviews. And he was very tormented by what had happened to him as a younger child and being molested. And I do feel like going to Arizona and going to where he was raised can activate old emotions and feelings. So there was kind of like this tornado going on. And I feel like if his wife and family had been with him at that time, I think he would still be here today.
All righty, fair enough. Now, my wife was wanting her little chart done, so I wonder if you would mind doing that for her real fast. Her name's Jolene.
Sure, no problem.
And her birthday is July 3rd, 1989.
July 3rd, 1989. Okay, just a second. I'm curious, Ira, what sign are you?
Aquarius.
Okay.
It's funny because we've found out that we're supposedly not compatible.
Aw. So she has Sun in Cancer, Moon in Cancer, Mercury in Gemini, Venus in Leo, Mars in Leo. Well, first of all, I see Venus and Mars in Leo, so she's probably very beautiful and very charismatic, and naturally attracts a lot of people, very warm and vibrant. Sun and Moon in Cancer, so she's very emotionally sensitive. Family's very important to her. Very intuitive. She can pick up on other people's feelings and emotions. And when she feels very strongly about something, you kind of have to go with it, because she may be picking up on something that maybe you're not aware of, or if it has to do with family and friends, it's kind of like she knows what she knows. Mercury in Gemini would tell me she's a great communicator, probably very talented at writing. Saturn in Capricorn, so she's going to be having that Saturn return. And Saturn squares or opposes her sun and moon. So were there any challenges when she was young with her with her parents?
Oh, yeah. Big split between her and her mom. She hasn't had any communication for years with her. Horrible situation, to say the least, yeah.
Oh, God bless. So one thing she needs to be aware of, because she's going to be going through her Saturn return over the next 2 years, those issues are going to come back up again. So maybe one of them's going to try to get in touch with her, or she needs to work through those issues and practice forgiveness and let go. And it's for herself. It's not for them, but it's for her, because emotionally she's like a completely different person than what they are. And she's learned from the past what not to do, but it's still a part of who she is. And Saturn is really like the taskmaster that's knocking on your door and saying, hey, you have to deal with this. And you're like, no, I don't want to answer the door. And they're like, well, if you don't, then we will force you to. So it's probably important for her to, whether she talks to you about it or talks to someone that she trusts, to kind of try to work through some of the stuff that may still bother her. But the good news is after Saturn return is over, she's able to kind of let go of that and move forward. Also, does she write at all? Is she a writer?
She wants to. She's got lack of time for it at the moment, but that is one of her dreams to do. Yeah.
Yeah, because I see she's super talented at it. And
Yeah.
She's got Jupiter conjunct Mercury in Gemini, which means like it's almost like if she started doing it, she would have like instant success. It's almost like, wow, this is like, it just will kind of like take off. So one of the things that she needs to start doing is making time for herself, doing the writing. And I think that she'll find within the next 12 to 18 months, there will become an opportunity where she can be writing on a project on a regular basis that will actually could become quite successful for her. So I would definitely encourage her to do that. And then she also has Uranus and Neptune and Capricorn. So it's kind of like leaning in one direction to spirituality, being emotional, being sensitive, being loving, and being caring, to swinging to the other side of maybe there's been challenges in the past with trust, and she doesn't like to be told what to do and doesn't want to be controlled. And so it kind of goes back and forth. And with Saturn in Capricorn over the next 2 years, she's really going to be able to work through that and really embrace. She's this like wonderful, warm, creative, caring, talented person that after this Saturn return will kind of like, it's almost like, it feels like chains or restrictions on her emotionally that she can finally let go of and just, move on and move forward with it. But yeah, she's got some really positive things coming up, especially career-wise, over the next couple of years.
That's awesome, because you're saying the pretty much exact words that I've said to her for a long time now. So it's great to have reinforcement.
Yay!
Indeed. Now Crystal wanted one as well. We'll do Crystal, I guess, next. She has, let me see here, March 26th, 2004.
Okay. March 26th.
See, it's funny because it's my daughter, and every time I don't know why. Maybe you can explain this. Every time I say her birthday, I say it as April instead of March. It's so weird. I cannot get myself to get past doing that.
That's funny.
It's weird.
Okay. So she is an Aries, Moon in Gemini. And she's got Venus in Taurus and Mars in Gemini. So Moon in Gemini tells me someone that's a great communicator, has a great sense of humor, a lot of fun, very friendly, gets along with people. Sun in Aries, so she's very action oriented, the first person to try something different and really can stand out in a crowd. And she's not afraid to express her opinion or tell people what she thinks or feels. And the Venus in Taurus, when it comes to relationships, she's very loyal and caring and down to earth and is very grounded. The Mars in Gemini tells me that she probably gets bored easily, so she needs a lot of activity going on in her life to kind of push her forward. So she might always, as she gets older, want to have multiple projects going on. And I definitely see a lot of artistic talent, a lot of talent with writing, a lot of talent around creativity. Does she express the desire to be like in the arts, whether it's musician, actress?
She's always writing and she's always drawing. So yeah, definitely. she wants to be a writer. So yeah.
Yeah, she's very, very gifted. And I also think at the same time though, she's very grounded, which is nice because sometimes when people are artistic, they're not very grounded.
Yeah.
So that can sometimes cause problems. But I think that, what's going to be happening over the next 2 to 3 years, I would continue to encourage her to hone her craft. And I think from an artistic perspective, she's really going to see things take off for her after the Saturn in Capricorn completes. But I also feel like she'll kind of, with Saturn trining her Venus, she'll be really certain by the time she's 16 of this is what I want to do. I know what I want. This is where I'm going. And here's my action plan. And she'll actually make it happen. And I do see there might be an opportunity for her to do some writing opportunities with you and her mom both.
I love it. That's awesome words of encouragement for her. She's definitely needing it. So I appreciate that. We do have a call that's coming in, and we'll go ahead and hit them here real quick. 447 area code. Welcome to Open Eyes. Who's this, and what's on your mind?
Is that me then? Is that Rohan? Is that me?
Hi, Rohan. How you doing?
Hi, Ira. It's nice to finally speak to you. It's great, man. Yeah, I'm doing okay now. Wow. But I was hoping to get a reading today from the guests because, I've had some strange things happen this week, Ira.
Well, there you go, JC. We've got Rohan here for you.
Hi, Rohan. What's your birthday and what year were you born?
Okay, well, I've got a funny few connections with that, but 21st of December, 1980.
You said December 25th, 1980?
21st, 2012 day.
21st, 1980. Okay. It's interesting. A lot of Capricorn coming up because would you consider yourself a Sag or a Cap? Because Capricorn, you're right on the cusp.
Definitely Sag. I'm
okay.
always late.
Okay. So, all right. Another moon in Gemini. Wow. Okay. So you have Sun in Sag, Mercury in Sag, Venus in Sag, Mars in Capricorn, the moon in Gemini. So the moon in Gemini, once again, great communicator, a lot of fun to be around, great sense of humor, very outspoken with all the Sagittarius in your chart. You get bored really easy. You're always on the go. You'll try anything once. Very open-minded and free-spirited. You love to learn about from other people, and you're also you might like in conversations like to play devil's advocate and kind of wind people up a little bit when maybe you don't necessarily agree with what they think, but you kind of want to hear why they're so passionate about something. So you've got Mars in Capricorn. So I would say your energy, you can be grounded and structured and try to be practical, but there's this other side to your personality that can be a little wild and free-spirited. So you're kind of having this, do I want to just kind of go out in life and travel and experience it? Or do I want to kind of be grounded and practical and stay and have this job and have a family and work towards a future? So Saturn's going to be on your Mars over the next 2 years. So Saturn in Capricorn, you might feel that energetically, I don't know if it's really challenges. I just feel like you're going to feel like you're having to work really hard towards a goal. But I think it's something that you need to do, and it's going to be really beneficial. I feel like there's an opportunity for you to move if you're open to that. Is that something that you've thought about?
Yep. Yeah, well, everything you said is almost like you've written my resume to begin with. I mean, you've to begin with, honestly, I'm not even joking, man. You've written my resume to begin with, and then your summary there is basically what I've been thinking myself, is that I need to go and do the thing that's happening now. And it actually lines up perfectly. So I'll get back in touch with you later if it succeeds, and I'll tell you my whole story, because that works well.
Yeah.
I basically had a trauma on Friday the 13th, and it finished, and then I've been sort of living it in the moment, and I've had a big breakthrough today. And then you said that, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I need to do this thing. I need to do it and turn something bad into something beautiful. That's what I need to do.
Yeah, I think the energy-wise is like sometimes you might feel uncertain or insecure, but you need to ignore those feelings. So follow your heart, follow your intuition and your gut instincts, and you will always be on the right path. So just follow your truth, be the Sagittarius that you are, and just embrace it and go forward.
That's awesome. Thanks very much. That's wonderful. Thanks a lot, I feel very
much.
I need to
it was nice meeting you.
Again, definitely.
Glad to have you call in tonight.
Okay.
That's definitely appreciated. Have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
Ray.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to catch you up PM. I need to advise some writing, Aaron, but that's one for another time.
Absolutely.
Nice to speak to you.
All righty. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So there you go. Now we had one other that wanted to get their information. Lots of people coming up for this one. So this one was from Deb. She was wondering about herself. August 26th, 1959.
Okay. Nice. Fellow Virgo. I'm a Virgo too.
And she has her exact birth time as well, if you wanted to do that.
I won't be able to, I don't have the program with me to do the rising sign, but I can look at the other part.
Okay.
So August 26th, let's see. Okay. Sun in Virgo, Moon in Taurus, Mercury in Leo. Wow. Venus and Mars in Virgo. All right. So she has Sun, Venus, Mars in Virgo. So that tells me, very, very smart. She's the type of woman that stands out in a crowd. Probably very attractive. Now with Sun, Venus, and Mars in Virgo, that also is a person that, when it comes to relationships, you're very practical. You want to be of service. You want to help others. Maybe sometimes you help too much, and maybe you feel like people are taking advantage of you, and people are naturally attracted to you because you have this powerful Sun, Venus, Mars conjunct, and people come to you because they almost like they need to be emotionally healed. And what's going to happen over the next 2 years with Saturn and Capricorn trining these planets, it's a really positive time for you to become more grounded and really create some boundaries in your life that need to be set with relationships with others, whether it's with family or friends. But at the same time, it's a great time for building your future. And what that means is maybe you've had an idea of a project that you wanted to do, or perhaps you wanted to buy a house, or you want to move, or you want to start a new job. The next 2 years is the most auspicious, fortunate time for you to actually do that, and that the universe will support you in the decisions that you're making. But at the same time, going back to relationships, there are certain relationships in your life that I feel like are probably emotionally draining you. And either you have the option of setting boundaries with them, and you can still have them as a part of your life, but you really need to not be so giving towards them. Or the other part is maybe there's certain friends that you don't want to have around you, and you have to make peace with that. But I think like the next 2 years are going to be really, really positive, and you've got that Mercury in Leo, so you can be a very warm, loving, caring person. And I think that you just need to work through some of the relationship challenges that you've been having over the last couple of years.
Awesome. I think that she'll get back whether or not you were correct with her or not, but definitely really good info there. Hopefully that helped you out, Deb. Okay, so one other question that came in from my wife actually is she was wondering, now not necessarily to do anything tonight with it, but just out of curiosity, do you ever do any kind of like astrological readings for animals, like for pets and that kind of thing? I know some people out there do, but
I can do it if they know, like when their pet is born. I actually have a dog named Jax. He's part pug and part Chihuahua. He's called a Chug, and I know his birthday's November 16th, so he's a Scorpio. So if people know the birth date of their animal, then yeah, I can take a look at it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably the problematic part is most people won't know exactly the day that they were born or anything like that. They might have an idea, but most people don't have that kind of info. Okay,
yeah,
so oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying. So if somebody wanted to reach out or whatever, I could just take a look at it, and happy to answer any questions, because animals are very sensitive and very intuitive, and there's a lot of different things going on astrologically and in the world. So I know how important pets are to people, and they make such wonderful companions.
Do you think that pets are part of that whole soul tribe for us as well? Do you think that there's something to that? Because I think that there are, but I wanted to get your thoughts with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think so too. If you're really in tune with your animal, they're so intuitive, whether you're happy or you're sad, or maybe they don't like someone, or I know, for example, I live in San Francisco, and they had the fires up in Santa Rosa, and I live in Marin, and so the fires were about probably 15 miles from my house. And I know my dog was just, before the fires even started, he started freaking out, and there was just, I could tell things were off. And I was telling my partner, my fiance, like there's something really major about to happen where we live. And I wasn't sure, because we kind of live in the woods, and then the fire happened. And so I came down to Los Angeles to be with my son. But animals are so sensitive and so intuitive, and I think it's really important to pay attention to how they're thinking and feeling.
Absolutely agree, 100% there. Okay, so Bill, he's got his chart that he wants to have done here. His birthday would be April 16th, 1955. Bill's a great guy.
Okay. He's an Aries. Of course he's a great guy. April 16th, you said?
Yeah, April 16th, 1955.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yes, Moon in Aquarius. So is this a friend of yours? Because I would say you guys would get along great.
Yeah, he's a mod in our chat room, and we've known each other for a while now.
Yeah, so emotionally, there's a nice friendship connection between the two of you. He gets you. He really enjoys the show and what you think and what you feel, and he feels this strong friendship connection with you. So he has Sun and Mercury in Aries, so that would tell me he's a take charge kind of guy, very friendly and outgoing. Can have very strong opinions, likes to be in charge, likes to be in control. But when it comes to relationships, he's got Venus in Pisces, so that makes him very sweet and romantic and sensitive and kind of very chivalrous in relationships. And he's got Mars in Gemini, so he gets bored really easy, and he's probably attracted to people in his life that can kind of make it interesting and exciting, but that can kind of create some drama. And so I would say it's important to set boundaries in relationships. I think this year, from a relationship perspective, and from as far as good fortune, Jupiter's in Scorpio and it's trining Venus. So this tells me over the next 12 months, and this is from October now till October 2018, is a really great time relationship-wise. So that's, if you're not in a relationship, it's a great time to find the perfect life partner. If you're already in a relationship, this is a great time to form a deeper connection and really take your relationship to a next level. From an artistic and creative perspective, it's a really wonderful time to get projects off the ground. And also with the Jupiter aspect to his Venus, it tells me in 2018 there's a lot of opportunity to travel. And it's probably, he's going to look back at this part in his life in 2018 and look at it thinking like, wow, 2018 was a really fantastic year. I had a lot of fun, and just a super positive time for him next year.
Awesome. Hope that helps out, Bill. He's such a great guy. He's been a big part of the network over there for quite a while now, and just an all around awesome dude. So, okay, Wade, he wanted one as well, so we'll do Wade here real quick. His is September 20th, 1977.
Okay, September 20th. So he's right on the cusp of Virgo and Libra. All right. So Sun in Virgo, Moon in Sag, Mercury in Virgo, Venus in Leo. So Sun and Mercury in Virgo, to me, very smart, very no-nonsense person, very practical, and also very fair, can come into a situation, can be the mediator or the negotiator, also likes to be of service to others, really great sense of humor. Moon in Sag makes them emotionally really free-spirited, free thinker, also very honest, and just really likes to be transparent. Sometimes when you're communicating your ideas and thoughts, it can be, I don't want to say it's biting, but sometimes some people aren't great at handling like the 100% truth, but they also appreciate your honesty and your friendship. So I would say it's kind of something I have to learn, because I'm a very transparent person myself, that sometimes I tell people what I think they can handle. Sometimes, if it's a close family member or friend, you have to be like, sometimes you have to be blunt with people. But I think a very honest person that has a lot of integrity. Venus in Leo, so very in love, very passionate, very outgoing, likes to put his partner on a pedestal. Mars in Cancer, really emotionally sensitive. Can get your feelings hurt, but if they are hurt, you tend to hide it. Venus and Saturn conjunct in Leo. So that would tell me in relationships, he probably has a lot of responsibility in relationships, and sometimes might take on more responsibility than he can handle, but people really look to him to take care of things and really value his opinion and ideas. I would say over the next year, it's actually going to be Jupiter's going to square Venus. So what that tells me is there are going to be some really unique opportunities coming up in 2018. And being a Virgo, we might be like, oh gosh, I have too many responsibilities. I'm not sure if I should do this or try this. But it's really the universe giving you a gift and saying, hey, you're really this hardworking, responsible person, and here's a really interesting opportunity that you should think about taking that could move your life in a completely different direction.
Very cool. Very cool. Wade, I hope that one was a good one for you. I'm sure he'll get back to me and let me know either way. So he's also a really nice guy. He's one of the mods over there in our YouTube chat, and just a really great guy. I love Wade to death. So there you go, Wade.
Does he have a good sense of humor?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely. Okay. So with all of these others being right, I got to do myself here. I have to. I'm just too curious. February 4th, 1971. I'm old.
Well, I being in Aquarius, and when Pluto and Saturn go in Aquarius, that is really, you're going to be so in your element. So it was February
4th, 1971.
Oh, you have Moon in Gemini too. Oh my gosh, your wife, your daughter, and you all have Moon in Gemini, which is great. That is your strong connection with your wife. It's a deep emotional, spiritual connection, but it's also a deep intellectual connection. And you guys can talk about anything.
Literally.
And and your daughter shares that with you. So it's nice to know, when I look at the astrological aspect, that your daughter will always come to you or her mother and tell her what's going on. So, sometimes kids hide things and whatever. I think she feels like she can talk to you guys about anything. She absolutely
does. Yeah, she absolutely does.
Yeah, so that's really very, very positive. You have Venus and Mars in Sag. So Aquariuses are unique and different and open-minded and spiritual, and you're happy to talk about it with that moon in Gemini, and you're very social and friendly, and people really enjoy your company. And Venus and Mars in Sag is you love adventure. You want to try something. You're very open-minded in relationships, and you're really interested in learning about everybody. So it's like if you haven't met someone that's done something crazy, you're like, gosh, I really want to talk to them and kind of understand why they think that way, or why they feel that way, or why they did something. And because you have Jupiter conjunct Venus and Mars and Sag, that shows a person that's lucky by nature. Luck naturally is on your side. Now you've got Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Gemini, and Uranus in Libra. So that is a grand trine, and your success comes from talking about the unusual. So it's no surprise that you're doing podcasts. I couldn't see you doing it. It's very unique. You've got the Neptune in Sag as well. So you're able to, I know that you're a writer, but I also, do you do books around fantasy or fiction at all?
It's mostly fiction. Yeah. Fiction, science fiction and fantasy is what I tend to go to the most.
Yeah, because it shows a natural talent for that. And then I would say that you've probably had some really unique and unusual experiences in your life that
many.
have been, is that true?
Yeah, I always say the paranormal is normal for me. It's just been that way since I was born.
Yeah, it's really been a catalyst for you in your life. And it's kind of pushed you and will continue to push you through your lifetime to kind of keep going higher and higher. So I would say with Saturn and Capricorn over the next 2 years, it's really your time to kind of do your grand plan for the rest of your life, of saying, okay, well, this is what I'm set to do, or this is what I want to accomplish. And what happens is when Pluto hits Aquarius and Saturn hits Aquarius, you're going to be one of those individuals that are on the forefront of what's happening, and being like a leader in like you are now, but even on a grander scale, that people look to you to be the teacher in this aspect of life, and perhaps the show will be even bigger than it is now. But it's going to be an interesting ride for you and your family, and a lot of interesting projects coming up over the next 2 years for you guys to work together on.
Sounds awesome. I love it. Yes. And I could definitely see that happening as well. You know, I've kind of got the intuitive thing going on as well. And I've felt that kind of thing has sort of been on the rise with me. So it's nice to hear. Definitely. I appreciate it. So
yeah, you're definitely on the right path and in the right direction. And you're like one of those guys, you're the first one there, and then everybody's going to follow you.
Yeah.
So you get to be the leader and carry everybody into the light.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we have a few minutes that are left here. I want to make sure to give you time to get out the information about where people can find you, where they can find your book that's upcoming, all that kind of good stuff. Go ahead and get out whatever you want to get out with it all.
Sure. So I have an entertainment site. It's called astrochicks.com, where the stars collide. So any of your listeners can come to the site if they want to read about celebrity news. I do astrology predictions, psychic predictions. Also, it has horoscopes, so it has a mixture of anything and everything on it. I usually do a couple of posts a day, and I've had it for the last 10 years. And it's a fairly popular site, so I really enjoy that. Also, my book will be coming up in the spring, which I'm really excited about. It's been a very interesting journey writing the book, and as you dig a little bit deeper into especially musicians that you like or you really love their music, and then you take a look at what's happened to them growing up and why they became a musician and the relationships that they've had. It's some very, very powerful stories, and a lot of interesting information that music fans probably haven't heard before. And it's also a different take on that individual's life. Because even though musicians, obviously they're famous and super talented, at the end of the day, they're humans like all of us, and they have their positive and negative aspects to their personality, but they've as much success they've had in their life, they've had a lot of pain and sorrow as well that they've kind of used as a catalyst to take them to the next level, especially someone like Chris Cornell or Chester Bennington, Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, like all the artists that you could possibly think of that you're interested in. And then also, I found in the book that there's definitely like a theme of what was going on that day that's kind of happened, why a certain person died a certain way, and whether it's through a car accident or addiction or whatever it might be. One story that came up that I thought was pretty interesting is there was a popular indie British band called Viola Beach, and they died like a year ago. They were at Stockholm Music Festival, and they had just finished a set, and they were going back to their hotel, and so their manager was driving them back to their hotel. So it was all the band members were between the ages of 19 and 25. And they were going over a bridge in Sweden, and I guess the bridge was out of order and they didn't know it. And they veered off the road and the car crashed and it killed all of them. And it's such an interesting story because one of the band members actually was still alive, but it took police 25 minutes to get to them. And so it was interesting because I used to live in Stockholm, Sweden for about 7 years. And so I was really kind of intrigued by what happened. And then there was one of the particular artists in the band that I seem to have this spiritual connection with because he keeps coming to me and really wanted his story to be told and felt like, you know, their soul cluster agreement, this wasn't how it was supposed to happen. And so I think it'll be kind of an interesting twist to the book as well. And it might be a band that people might not know about unless you're in Europe, but they are definitely very, very talented. And you can find them on YouTube, Viola Beach, Viola, really super cool band.
Very interesting. Well, Jacy, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate you being here. I know my my listeners, they've really loved having you on here. We're going to have you back here in the near future. I would love for you to come back on.
I would love to be on. I've had a lot of fun, and I enjoyed doing readings for your listeners, and I'm excited to hear about what you and your wife and your daughter have planned over the future. And I'll definitely be tuning into your show as well.
Sounds awesome. Thank you. Stick around for a moment. We'll talk after the show.
Okay, thanks.
So there you go. Jacy Nova, really great guest. I love her to death. We're going to have her back again in the near future. You guys can find her information linked up on my YouTube channel over there at youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. You guys can also find her on the archive of this show, which is going to be at openeyesnetwork.com here in just a couple of hours. If you want to meet us on social media, we're everywhere, all over the place. Open Eyes Network on all of the different social media platforms out there. And if you want to send me an email, you can send it to my email address, feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. Don't forget that I will be live again next week. We got Dark Waters coming on the show next week to tell us some really great ghost stories, really awesome horror stories. And that's going to be on the Friday, which is going to kick off the L&M Spookathon. So make sure you guys tune in. The Spookathon itself is going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to have a 24-hour plus of live broadcasts happening. So make sure you guys tune on in. We do it for you, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got all kinds of great people coming up with that one, too. So Michael will be on, Riscala, Ryan, myself, Jason Bland over there at the Paranormal Soup. He's going to be on. All kinds of great stuff. We'll have all of that information coming out again next week. So make sure you guys tune in. And until next time, keep safe out there. Have fun. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. And don't forget as well, if you guys want to check out my own books, you can go to my website, originalworlds.com. I have Penitence that is coming out here in the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited to get that one out there for you. We will talk to you again soon, folks. Stay safe.